In early March this year, Jampel Khalden and his wife visited England from Kalimpong in India. Jampel Khalden was assistant to Dhardo Rimpoche, Bhante's close friend and teacher.
December, January.
Yes. Yeah.
Jampel Khalden is the headmaster of the ITBCI school in Kalimpong. That's the Indo-Tibetan Buddhist Cultural Institute school that was founded by Dhardo Rimpoche in 1954. Dhardo Rimpoche had called Jampel from Tibet in 1956 when he was just a boy of 10 years old. And Jampel's father and grandfather before him, they'd both been the managers of Dhardo Rinpoche's estate and the previous Dhardo Tulku in Tibet. And later on, Jampel became the secretary and manager for Dhardo Rinpoche, and he became the headmaster of the school in 1986. When the Khaldens knew they had a chance to come to England, their priorities were to meet with Bhante and to visit at least one of the stupas where some of Rinpoche's ashes are enshrined.
In addition to Padmaloka, their itinerary included Majamaloka, Windhorse Publishing, and Birmingham Buddhist Centre.
Tibetan Buddhists are very devotional, and they couldn't imagine going to a centre without making offerings at all our shrines. They had to bring with them their own incense, their own katas, scarves, and candles, and they had to make their own offerings.
Hello.
Yes, please.
The last time that Jampel and Mrs. Khalden had seen Bhante was on Bhante's farewell tour to India in 1966. So meeting Bhante again after such a long time, they were quite unable to express in words what they felt. They were so happy, but it was very, very significant for them to meet Bhante at least once again in their life.
We are very much eager to see from a long time, very keen. So today we are very fortunate enough to see him here, and we feel like a dream, It's very exciting, yeah.
On the 26th of March, Bhante led an afternoon of celebration at the Birmingham Buddhist Centre to commemorate the 10th anniversary of Dhardo Rinpoche's death.
Bhante, as we know, was a very close disciple of Dhardo Rinpoche. And Dhardo Rinpoche felt that by Bhante having gone back to the West to teach the Dhamma, he didn't feel any need that he should do that.
Dhardo Rinpoche was born in 1918 in Dartsendo, and he came from a long line of Nyingmapa Tulkus. Those were the Tulkus, the incarnate lamas, we could say, of the oldest tradition of Buddhism in Tibet.
Dhardo Rinpoche meditated upon green and white Tara every day. He visualized these two forms of Tara. Imagined these two forms of Tara, invoked and evoked these two forms of Tara every day.
And he had this vision of a school which both would preserve the Tibetan tradition and would fit the refugees, the children, for life in the modern world. Life in India, which was so different, even in those days, from traditional life in Tibet.
Dhardo Rimpoche and Bhante were brought up in entirely different cultures. They differed in age, in nationality, and had been ordained into different strands of the Buddhist tradition. It wasn't until 1953 that they met face to face in Kalimpong, though they knew each other by reputation.
In 1979, I had the great good fortune of meeting the Venerable Dhardo Rimpoche. It was the beginning of the rainy season, and the skies over Kalimpong were grey, the mountain roads slippery with mud. Rinpoche's smile, his warmth, his clarity, his genuine pleasure at meeting a member of the order lit up those grey days with a golden light that I'll never forget.
I'm reminded of something that was said about him by a Western scholar, who was also a friend of mine, who knew Dhardo Rimpoche in the early 50s. He said, Dhardo Rinpoche believed he was a bodhisattva, and he acted accordingly. Now, I'm not absolutely sure that Rinpoche believed that he was a bodhisattva in a sense of believing that he was an incarnate Lama or Tulku. Whenever he was asked about that, as sometimes people did, not Tibetans of course, but Western visitors, asked whether he really was an incarnate Lama, a Tulku, he'd simply say, well, that is what people say. And he'd leave it at that. But there's no doubt whatever that he behaved like a bodhisattva, he behaved like an incarnate Lama. That is what I observed, and that's how I experienced him, and apparently all our speakers this afternoon experienced him from their different perspectives in that same way.